recognized that Donald Trump would be a disaster.
So with current and former Republican candidates teaming up to stop Trump, the question is, will it work or is it too late? Let's talk about this with our political panel. Jason Johnson is the politics editor for TheRoot.com, and we're also bringing back politics reporter Jeremy Diamond, who was at that Trump event about to get underway in Arizona. So Jason, you first. Too little, too late?
It may not be too little too late, but, you know, the narrow victory that Ted Cruz is fighting for is becoming more and more difficult. We're now in winner-take-all states. Donald Trump only has to win a little bit more than half of the remaining delegates, and there's no sign that the dropping out of the race of other candidates has harmed him. In fact, the most recent polls that have been taken since Rubio dropped out of the race shows that his supporters seem to be either leaning towards Donald Trump or split evenly between Trump and Cruz, which helps Donald Trump. So I don't think it's likely that Mitt Romney or anyone else rallying around Cruz is going to stop Trump from having the most delegates, even if he doesn't hit the magical threshold.
And then, Jeremy, is there any way of gauging whether, you know, all of this talk only further galvanizes, you know, the Trump supporters? Does it actually help him pick up any additional support?
Yeah, well, definitely Donald Trump certainly thinks that, he's continued to hit Mitt Romney. We heard him last night, questioning whether or not he's a Mormon because he's endorsing, quote, lying Ted Cruz. So I think Donald Trump is enjoying this moment. He's enjoying seeing the establishment kind of start to perhaps rally around Ted Cruz. You know, you also saw former Senator Lindsey Graham, who had likened Ted Cruz to, a lesser disease than Donald Trump in the past, also rallying behind Ted Cruz. So I think Donald Trump's enjoying it. It positions him yet again as the anti-establishment candidate, and I think that's really resonating with his supporters, including here in Arizona, where folks are really expressing that kind of anger and frustration with the politics as usual, something that Donald Trump has continued to hit on the campaign trail.
And Jason, Jeremy brings it up, the establishment, the Republican Party as a whole, how much damage is really being done here? I mean, is it in large part, because of Donald Trump, or was this inevitable to have this kind of infighting?
Well, this was inevitable. And it's interesting. Friday was the 3-year anniversary of the Republican autopsy that RNC Chair Reince Priebus said, and this is how we need to improve the party. We need to become more diverse. We need to be a bigger tent. And instead, they have put more and more conservative candidates in. And so the establishment's desire to make a bigger party has completely blown up in their faces. So this is harming the establishment. It's harming their legitimacy. They look like hypocrites by supporting somebody like Ted Cruz, and it also helps somebody like Donald Trump. This is really one of the worst things that could happen to the Republican Party, either the conservative, the moderate, or the non-existent liberal wing.
And Jeremy, do you get a feeling from some of the supporters that say that Trump event that feel like they identify with the Republican Party, with the establishment, or is it that they are behind Trump, who is running under the Republican ticket, but they're not necessarily, showing any allegiance to the party?
Well, certainly they're kind of drawn to this kind of larger-than-life presence that Trump has had consistently throughout this campaign. And I think it really is this idea that they like what Trump represents. They like that he represents this outsider image rather than, being, a Republican candidate. But certainly most of the Trump voters are Republicans. He has also, though, drawn a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents to his candidacy. You've seen that in open primary contests where Donald Trump has taken support from elsewhere as well. So that's where he really benefits, is from his outsider appeal, something that goes beyond party lines.
And in the meantime, there's a large crowd gathering in New York, just near Central Park there, and apparently people say, or Columbus Circle, people say they're going to march their way to the Trump Tower. And so, Jason, I wonder if this kind of movement, this anti-Trump sentiment right there in the Big Apple, will in any way, disrupt, distract Donald Trump and his message.
I don't think it's going to distract Trump in his message, but it is going to change one of the longest-standing political axioms ever. I've always said you can never win a presidential election by having people vote against the other guy. They got to want to vote for you. That may change this year. I think there seem to be so many people, including about a hardcore 25% of Republican Party, independents, and a lot of Democrats, who literally will just vote against Donald Trump. And when you see something like this in the city of New York, where Donald Trump is actually very, very popular, it's a sign of what may happen in a general election. This may turn out to be the beginning of something that works out really well for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
And Jeremy, are you seeing any, gatherings of anti-Trump, protesters or, people who are showing up who are professing that they're not really there in support of Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the last couple, we've seen protests, of course, against Donald Trump since the beginning of his campaign, in the midst of all of the controversial comments that Trump has made. But in the last couple of weeks, we've really seen a solidifying of the anti-Trump protests. We've seen some more organized efforts, some more concerted efforts, and we've also seen the kind of divisiveness of the rhetoric kind of break out as well with some violence. So today that hasn't been the case yet, but certainly we've seen a lot of anti-Trump protests and a lot of protests that are more organized and concerted efforts to kind of stop Donald Trump.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, Jason Johnson, thanks so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Frederica.